Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the greatest podcast. I am your host, Francisco Lopez, also known as the greatest salesman in the world, self-proclaimed, and I'm pretty much on my way to being that. I want to talk to you about something that for a lot of people, it comes natural. For a lot of people, it's something that needs to be worked on a consistent basis. I'm talking about having a positive attitude, the importance of having a positive attitude throughout your entire life, no matter what it is that you're going through, right? So there's a saying that, a joke that I think illustrates it very well. I'm going to share it with you really, really quick. So there's these two kids. One of them is an internal pessimist and the other one is a super optimistic child. Both of them raised by the same parents and both of them raised in the exact same way. However, in their psychology, their way of being is that one of them is very optimistic, the other one's very pessimistic. So the parents, when it comes Christmas time, they wanted to try to help out and, make one of them try to balance them out. One of them was going to get a lot of improvement and there was going to be not improvement. One of them was going to start feeling a little bit more optimistic and the other one was going to start feeling a little bit more pessimistic and more realistic, I guess you could say, because one of the words that most pessimists use to say why they're not positive is they say, I'm just realistic. Anything that you put into your brain and you decide on as to what is real is realistic. So if you can be a super optimist and be a realistic, you could be a super pessimist and be a realistic. But most pessimists will say, I am just realistic because I don't want to dream like the optimist does. Anyways, that was a little tangent on the joke. So mother, father have the two kids. One of them is a pessimist. The other one is an optimist. They go to Christmas for their gifts. They come down the stairs. They're very excited. Well, one of them is very excited. The other one's like, oh, we'll see what we get. The parents gave the pessimist child a beautiful, brand new, top of the line BMX bicycle. They're like super expensive, all the best gear, everything that you could possibly dream of as a child to have, right? And he sees it and he knows that it's for him. And this pessimist child starts crying. And he's like, ah. So the parents are like, what's wrong? This is a beautiful bike. Why are you not happy with this bike that Santa brought you or whatever? He's like, well, can you imagine this thing? First of all, I'm going to have to learn how to ride it properly. Then it's so nice that people are going to try to steal it from me. I may be beaten up to try to so that other kids can take it away from me. And if I ride it a lot, I risk falling and breaking a leg or breaking an arm. This is horrible. Why would I get such a gift? Which goes to tell you the pessimistic attitude. Then the positive kid comes downstairs and in the area where he was supposed to get his gifts and with a little tag was a pile of shit. And he was super happy. He starts running around because there's this big bunch of poop, right? And he's running around, super happy. He's like, and the parents are like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so happy? Where are you running to? He's like, because there's a bunch of shit over there. There's got to be a puppy around here somewhere, right? So the idea behind this is that's a pretty cool message if you think about it, how there are people that are just naturally optimistic and naturally pessimistic. And we know, I'm sure that if you think about it, you're going to know right away a few names that come to mind that are like that. Right? Personally, it's always been very easy for me to be very optimistic with things that happen and things that come. And I'm always saying, and it drives some people that are close to me and some people that are on my team, I'm not going to say any names, but he's sitting behind the camera, drives them a little bit crazy that I always say, it's going to work out. It'll work out, right? It's going to be okay. And then all of a sudden, it works out. And they're like, God. And then Brenda, for example, my sister is like, I don't like it when things work out because then you don't worry as much and you don't plan out things because then you're always thinking it's going to work out. The reality of it is worst case scenario. Even if things don't work out and I totally screwed up, there was a lesson learned and something good came out of it, right? So staying positive throughout any challenge is going to help you improve. There's also that saying, which isn't really directly related to positivity or negativity. It talks about like how people say, "Oh, money doesn't cure all the problems or whatnot, and it's not the most important thing in the world." And they're right. Money is by far not the most important thing in the world. Health is, I believe, but there's that saying that says it's so much better to cry in a Ferrari, right? And it's kind of the same thing if you think about the positive mindset. It's so much easier to go through the challenges of day-to-day life when you have that positive attitude, when you have that it's going to work out in the end. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to be a survivor. I'm going to be a winner, and I'm going to figure out a way to thrive no matter what, especially because you know that no matter what happens, you're going to find a way to make yourself happy and you're going to be okay with it. Some of the toughest times in my life personally, financially, were also in a lot of ways some of the most beautiful parts of my life because we found ways to connect at a deeper level with my wife and with my kids and things like that. It was challenging in a lot of really weird ways, but it was beautiful in a lot of really cool ones. So there's no way that if you have that pessimistic outlook of life, like for example, that kid that no matter how beautiful that bike was, he was looking at all the worst case scenarios. He's like, I'm going to hurt myself. They're going to beat me up to steal it. I'm going to be like, and that's what a pessimist does. And what happens, and we've talked about this multiple times in the past, what happens when your brain thinks about anything? Your focus goes there. Therefore, you start seeing more and more of that. And because you see more and more of that, you justify that you were right with that thought. And because you were right with that thought, it increases exponentially. It's just the way it happens. Your focus goes into this, you see it more, therefore you justify and you say, oh shit, I was right. That thought, whether negative or positive, exists for real because I see it more often and therefore I was right. And therefore now you think about it again and it just reinforces that thought. And that negative thought keeps spiraling, or that positive thought. You have to choose what thought you're going to put into your mind, the positive or the negative. If you're going to be a pessimist, you're going to always struggle. You're going to always see the worst of things, the worst of people, the worst of everything. I have this thought and this belief, which, by the way, everything comes from our beliefs. I have a belief that says I will always trust anyone I meet blindly until I don't. Why doubt them right up front? Why have that pessimistic outlook towards their personality or towards who they are as a human without first being, introduced to something? It doesn't matter what people say about them. If I meet somebody new, I'm going to trust them blindly. If they screw me over and everything, that's it. Trust is like life, my dad used to say. You can only lose it once, and that's it. So you have to be very careful and being like that. Anyways, the thought came from a quote. This whole podcast basically came from a quote that I just read that it's from Mark Twain that says, "There is nothing sadder than the sight of a young pessimist." And the key word there, I think, is young. So when you're youthful and you have that pessimistic attitude, it's basically determining that you are going to be miserable for the rest of your life. And it's a long life to live. Why live it in a miserable state? So try to change that. If you have those thoughts or those thought patterns of always wanting to look for the worst in things or always forget it. Fuck that realistic stuff. It doesn't have to be. What is real? It's all, as my 13-year-old son was telling me yesterday, everything is subjective. And he's so right. Your thoughts are going to create your reality. Focus on the positive, find the positive in things, look for how everything can work out in the end. Don't go for worst case scenario, and you'll see how those positive thoughts, just like your negative thoughts were doing, are going to spiral into finding more and more and more, and your positivity can increase. Again, some people are naturally optimistic. They were born that way. Their brain is wired that way. But you can train yourself to go into that positivity by consistently focusing on good positive thoughts and stopping yourself consciously when you start spiraling out of control into thinking worst case scenario all the freaking time. Stop yourself and say, no, what good can come of this? Start asking yourself questions. What's funny about this situation? What could be positive about this? What could be good about this? What lesson can I learn from this? Doesn't matter what the situation, find something good and positive for it. All right? Anyways, I hope you like this message. If you know anybody that's consistently being a pessimist, send them this video. Have them think about it and really, really think for themselves if they are spiraling out of control into negativity because of their constant pessimistic state, and ask themselves, where is this pessimism coming from? What has happened in my life that has caused me to be this way? Was it my parents raised me to be this way? Always saying things like, oh, better safe than sorry, and be careful with what you do, and things like that? Or is it because I made some crazy decisions in the past that really hurt? And was it really because I wasn't careful, or was it just because of something, just a stupid decision that could have been made or not made, and it didn't matter whether I would have seen the bad side of it? I could have still made the mistake, but what was the positive that came out of that particular situation? What lesson did I learn? Because there's always lessons to be learned, and therefore everything can be turned into a positive, even the worst failures. All right. So anyways, share it, like it, comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you have been able to change yourself from having a negative attitude or a pessimistic attitude to a positive, optimistic personality, let me know. How'd you do it? Why did it happen? How did it work? And I'd love to know. I think it's something that I'm genuinely curious about because, like I said, me personally, I've always been very optimistic, but I do have friends that were highly pessimistic and have become highly optimistic as life has gone by. And I have had other people go the other way around, being little kids, very optimistic and very good at that, and then all of a sudden they're depressed and they're in a bad state because something might have triggered it. So anyways, share your thoughts with me. Let me know. If you like this video, please share it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. As the more subscribers we get, the faster we grow and the more of these type of messages we can put out there. Thanks so much for watching and spending the time with me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.